make it easier for you.
Okay. Thank you. What do you guys do to keep your motivation and confidence high?
I stay motivated because I know that I don't want to continue staying at home. I'm 22. I don't want to be living at home anymore. It's time for me to get out and have an own place and start my career. I don't like sitting around doing nothing. It's not that I'm not doing anything. I'm helping with babysitting and helping out around the house, but it still feels to me like I'm not doing anything. So that keeps me motivated by not wanting to stay at home the rest of my life. So I stay motivated by trying to look, and that might not help me with my confidence, but motivation works like that. So.
I value my independence, and so right now I'm not even living at home, but constantly on job searching. So when I find jobs that I think I'm qualified for, that keeps me motivated because I look at the job and I apply for it, and in my mind I'm thinking that I'm going to get it or I'm going to land an interview. So that keeps me going, as well as surrounding myself with great people, with my best friends around here who tell me that I'll find something. And that's the only thing you can do, is surround yourself with good people to keep your hopes high, because if not, what's the use of having people negative around you? Because that's not going to motivate you to find a job. Instead, you're going to stay in the same place, which may be either with your parents or just you by yourself living with expenses that keep building up. And that's not what I want to do. I want to find a job, and I want to be able to work and make income and pay for my bills and start a life.
I agree. And it's funny that you said you don't want to stay at home, because I most definitely do not want to go back home. I have been on my own since I graduated Manchester, and I love it. I just recently got engaged, so I'm preparing to be married. I love you, Mom, but I would never want to go back home. It's something that it makes you really feel like you failed, And hearing, like you said, keeping positive people around you, I hear all the time, it's not your fault, you didn't have any control over it. And it's very true, and that does help, but it's still so frustrating. It's so funny. I found myself taking any interview that I can get because I get to get dressed up. That kind of motivation, surprisingly, really helps. Remembering what it's like to get yourself ready and really get to speak about what you're passionate about, what you love, especially if it's a job that you really want, to be considered for. It keeps you motivated. I know I actually just had an interview yesterday, and I left and I was like, yes, I do want to work. I don't like being in sweatpants for 2 weeks on end. It's not as great as it was when I was at Manchester. So I think just keeping yourself passionate about what it is that you really do want to do. The occasional day off is wonderful, but when it's not by choice, it's not so great. So, yeah.
Great. Has anybody gotten really creative in your job search? Or what have you found is the key right now in this very competitive market to job searching? How do you make yourself stand out?
I call people myself, or I email them myself, even if they're not hiring. You would not believe how many people say, we were considering adding on an extra person, or we were considering creating this position. We just hadn't got there yet. If they have somebody that's interested in what they're looking for before they even have to go through the thinking process of, putting it on the internet or making it available, it tends to be easier on them, and so they get a little more excited about it. I will hear through the grapevine, I came from Fort Wayne Community Schools, and so I will hear through the grapevine that a principal is considering adding on a case manager or something like that. And the day that I hear it, I'm emailing them all my information, references, hey, just in case, I'm here. I'm waiting for something like that. So if you do decide to do that, I know I'm prepared to interview for it. Catching it before it even happens, I think, was my way. And just continuously emailing your information to your friends and family. Feel free to send this resume to someone if you hear of anything, even if it's not posted online. So
I'm just in the starting process. I met with Jen Fisher, I think, sometime last week to look over my resume. And my resume, it's a standard resume that just has my education, my experience, my skills, volunteers, qualifications, has all of that on there into one resume. And she told me, that would be great for an administrative position, but if I was looking for something in marketing, I have to do something different. And she told me that maybe adding some type of design logo to show that I'm creative would be a great way to catch their attention and changing around some of the things that I had on there. And so currently right now, I'm working on that, at least trying to improve that area. But as far as I know, there's probably a lot more creativity that could go into applying for a job aside from trying to make your resume look good. It's just that probably I need to think a little bit more out of the box.
Same, I haven't really thought too creatively. I've got my resume. I keep trying to see what I can do better to it and see what skills or something that I have that I could add to it that would really make it stand out. But besides my resume and actually going in person to talk to people, I haven't really got too creative.
You really have to, as far as what you said, you literally have to, if it's an application that you're filling out online or it gives a job description, in my experience, I would suggest printing that out and taking your resume and putting it next to it and thinking to yourself, okay, this is what they're looking for. What in my past have I ever done that qualifies for that, applies to that? Because your resume might be just kind of a standard, this is what I've done, kind of some things that you think are, appealing to the eye. But for this specific, employer, you might have done, a social group and some volunteer experience that you had, and they specifically ask, for someone to run a social group, and it doesn't say that on your resume. So think of a time. You really have to. I've never worked in sales, never, worked in retail or anything, but you are a salesman. You have got to sell yourself like never before, and really think back to high school volunteering, undergrad volunteering, things like that, internships where you think, oh my gosh, one time I did do that, and I actually was really good at it. So look at exactly what they're asking for and put that on your resume, because you have had that experience. You just don't think of it as one of the things that you need to say. That's helped me. I change my resume all the time. What one person gets is definitely not what another person gets. So, but it's all true. It's just, it changes all the time. So,
Even talking to Jen Fisher, one thing that goes along with what you said, she said, I've always thought that you've had to have the most recent experience or jobs on your resume. But she said that's not true. You want to put down the jobs that will qualify you for the job. And even putting your resume and the job description next to each other, she said that you would want to use words that they're using, especially if you're sending your resume through the internet, because it goes through a filter system. And so if your resume is going through there just the standard way that you normally have it, and it doesn't match the job qualifications that they have, or it's not worded like what they have, it's most likely your resume is going to get tossed out of the pile, and you're going to wonder why you didn't get that interview. It's because you didn't have the qualifications, or you didn't have the certain words that they wanted in a candidate. And so that's one thing that I know that I need to look over, and that anyone who creates a resume needs to do.
And a resume is, to me, I find a resume very scary because I've never had a problem talking. I like to talk. I'm a social worker, but you can't talk on a resume. I mean, that's it. That's all they get of you. And to think that, oh my gosh, they're going to throw me out because of something that's on my resume, but can I just talk to you? Can I just tell you that I can do this? And a verbal meeting is so much more beneficial than just reading some things on paper. So, you have to somehow put that on there to get yourself an interview, to get yourself that opportunity to explain, yes, I can do this, and I can be good at it, But if you don't, that's why cover letters are so important, in my opinion, because, I change it all the time. I look at what they're looking for, and, oh yeah, I've done that before. If they ask for supervising staff, I have never technically supervised my own staff, but I have supervised interns, I've supervised volunteers, you have to think creatively about what have I done that kind of fits what they're asking for, you know, and how can I showcase that and sell it. So you really do have to be creative, and I've gotten super creative, more than I ever thought, and it's exhausting that I would ever have to do, because ideally I thought, I have my master's, I'll just put that on there, you know. It's not that way. So